Dogs come in so many delightful shapes and sizes, and colors. Some have spots, some have stripes, some have big ol' splotches, or saddles, or masks, or socks, or even goggles. But believe it or not, every dog coat you've ever seen has been made up of only two pigments: black and red. Now, that might sound like an oversimplification, but I'm not technically wrong. Many of you are already familiar with melanin, which is essentially pigment in the bodies of people and animals. It's what makes my hair brown, my skin white, and my eyes blue. And dogs make two kinds of melanin: eumelanin, which is black based pigment, and pheomelanin, which is red based pigment. Genes at the different genetic loci all affect these two kinds of pigment in different ways. Some of them dilute, others hide, and some of them mix to create specific patterns or markings. Learning about this process of coat pigmentation can be incredibly rewarding, whether you're applying it in a breeding context to produce specific puppy coats, or just identifying traits and patterns in your own neighborhood or at the local dog park. By the way, if you haven't seen my first video in this series where I explain coat color genetics and you're still wondering what the heck loci are, go ahead and give it a watch to familiarize yourself with the basics. Eumelanin is the foundational pigment of every dog, and though it can obviously be expressed in the dog's coat, it also determines the color of the dog's eyes, eye rims, nose, lips, nails, and paw pads. Even if a dog has a red or golden or cream coat, we can still tell what their eumelanin base color is by looking at their nose. Eumelanin is black by default, but it can be modified by other genes, and these changes occur at the B and D locus. Genes at the B locus can change the black pigment to brown, and genes at the D locus can dilute said pigment, which ultimately gives us four color options: our original black, our modified brown, often called liver or chocolate, and then a dilute of each. Diluted black is called blue, you probably just call this grey, and diluted brown is called lilac or Isabella. Let's look at some examples. These dogs all have a black eumelanin base, but so do these. In the first group, the dogs' coats make this obvious, but in the second group, we can tell by their dark eyes and noses that their eumelanin base color is the same, which makes sense since black is the most common base color. German short-haired pointers are great examples of having a brown base color, and so are chocolate labs. They're obviously not the only ones though. This Australian Shepherd also has a brown eumelanin base, and so does this Dachshund. Blue coats in dogs are pretty rare, and I personally really love this color. Sometimes, though, it can be hard to tell this color apart from black since the nose can get quite dark. Lilac is the rarest eumelanin base color of the four, since it requires both brown modification and dilution. If you Google Isabella dog, you'll probably see mostly French bulldogs, American bulldogs, and maybe a Dachshund or even a Doberman. Notice how this color is warmer than the blue because it is based in brown. A dog's eumelanin base color remains consistent across its entire body, meaning that you won't see a dog with a black coat and a brown nose. The genes that turn that eumelanin in the dog's nose from black to brown will do the same everywhere else, and the same goes for dilution. In other words, you can't have two different colors of eumelanin on the same dog. But Olivia, I hear you say, that can't be right because I see black and brown dogs all the time. And that is a very good point. But there's a problem because this isn't actually brown. At least it isn't eumelanin based brown, but rather it's caused by our other kind of pigment, pheomelanin. Pheomelanin is referred to as red-based pigment, and it is only produced in a dog's coat, with the default being not red, but actually a golden color. This is because, unlike eumelanin, it doesn't occur in just four distinct colors, but in a whole spectrum of one color that varies in intensity. This spectrum can include anything from a deep Irish setter red to an almost white cream color. Also, unlike eumelanin, more than one of these shades can be expressed in the coat of the same dog. Here are some examples. This dog mother has a brown nose, and we can see the same color expressed in her coat here. So her eumelanin base color is brown. But here on her muzzle and on her chest, we can see these lighter beige shades. So we know that that color is coming from pheomelanin. Her puppy has a similar coat with the same pheomelanin patches, but a black eumelanin base. This Shiba Inu has a black nose, but no eumelanin expressed in the coat. Instead, the entire coat is pigmented by two shades of pheomelanin, with the lighter one looking almost white. And here's another Shiba Inu, but this one actually has some black in its coat. So I've mentioned that a very, very light shade of pheomelanin can look white, but that isn't the cause of all or even most white hair in dogs. White in dog coats isn't actually a color, but a lack of pigment caused by genes at the S locus. It can be complete, like in the cases of albinos, but most of the time it's partial. This lack of pigment can extend to the skin and eye color, causing pinkness in the eye rims or patches on the nose, which we call butterfly nose. When I look at this dog, I can tell from the pinkness in the skin that these white patches aren't an expression of pheomelanin, but rather a lack of pigment. So, what difference does this make? Well, melanocytes, which are pigment producing cells, actually play a role in the development of a dog's inner ear and eyes. So, dogs with extensive white spotting, especially around the ears, are actually at a higher risk for congenital deafness, which wouldn't apply to dogs with cream coats. A lack of pigment can also produce blue or mismatched eyes, but that hasn't seemed to indicate a health problem. Sable is a coat color term that refers to the distribution of both eumelanin and pheomelanin on the same hair. In other words, it's a mix of both pigments that occur on individual hairs, instead of whole patches of a dog's coat being strictly black or red based. There's a wide variety of coats that fit into this category, with some dogs only having a few hidden black hairs in them. We call these clear sables, and others having very extensive and obvious shaded appearances caused by these patterns, aptly referred to as shaded sables. An agouti pattern is very similar, causing multiple bands of eumelanin and pheomelanin in hairs. Agouti dogs are often called wolf sables because, duh. And unsurprisingly, it's one of the oldest and most widespread mammal genes. Tan points refer to distinct patches of pheomelanin pigment in a dog's coat, the best examples being Rottweilers and Dobermans. Masks are pretty self explanatory, and it's an expression of eumelanin that causes the overlay on the dog's muzzle. Another note about eumelanin is that if the eumelanin color in a dog's coat doesn't seem to match their nose, there might be some other genetic factor at play, like graying or domino or snow nose. Snow nose, often called Dudley nose, refers to fading nose pigment. Some dogs' nose colors fade as they age, becoming pink or liver colored, and this is great for confusing new learners like you. It's perfectly normal for many breeds and varieties with a solid white, cream, yellow, or red coat to have fading nose pigment. It's also good to be aware of the fact that certain breeds use breed terms to describe certain patterns or colors. Phantom, for example, is just poodle for tan points, and a red coat in a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel is referred to as ruby. If you want to play around and test out what you know, you can go to Dog Breeder Pro to use our genetic forecast feature, which allows you to build a dog by selecting different genes. You can also pair two dogs to predict the coats of their litter. Just go to dogbreederpro.com to sign up for a 30-day free trial. That about covers it. I really hope that this video was helpful. If it was, please pass it along to someone who you think would also benefit. If you want to learn more about coat color genetics, you can go ahead and look at our channel playlist where I post explainers like this. Thank you so much for watching. Good luck and bye!